Barack Obama. He's been in the news for a couple reasons. One, he sat down for a lengthy interview with a hit liberal podcaster, Brian Tyler Cohen. You may have seen his face or have heard of him. This is what we're seeing different politicians do more and more of. Obviously, anyone on any channel would kill for an Obama interview right now. Well, Cohen got it. And this is a rarity because the former president doesn't do a lot of long interviews these days, doesn't get pulled into every Trump debate. And so he was asked about and made his first public comments about Donald Trump's viciously racist online post about the Obamas, which was later taken down. Here was the response.
As I'm traveling around the country, as you're traveling around the country, you meet people. They still believe in decency, courtesy, kindness. And there's this sort of clown show that's happening in social media and on television. And what is true is that there doesn't seem to be any shame about this among people who used to feel like you had to have some sort of decorum and a sense of propriety and respect for the office, right? So that's been lost. But the reason I point out that I don't think the majority of the American people approve of this is because ultimately the answer is going to come from the American people.
When he first came into office, Obama was one of the younger modern presidents, on par with Clinton or Kennedy rather than Trump or Biden. And he discussed how elder Democrats need to be open to the younger generation.
I'm pretty healthy, 64, feel great.
Yeah.
But the truth is, half of the references that my daughters make about social media, TikTok, etc., I don't know who they're talking about.
Yeah.
There is a element of, at some point, you age out. You're not connected directly to the immediate struggles that folks are going through. I'm not making a hard and fast rule here, but I do think that Democrats do well when we have candidates who are plugged into the moment, to the zeitgeist, to the times, and the particular struggles that folks are thinking about as they look towards the future rather than look backward toward the past. That spirit, that energy, it's out there, and you can feel it, but it's bottled up. We haven't given enough outlets for young people to figure out, how do I become a part of that? And that's this enormous untapped power that we have to get back to.
Ever respectful, Obama saying the party's got to look to the younger candidates who are plugged in.
The current White House, this administration, and their enablers, they're behaving so badly, they're doing such crazy stuff, that it shouldn't be hard for our side to coalesce around the areas where we agree on and focus on that. And I think that that is going to happen if we are effective in winning the midterms.
What did you see him emphasizing there?
Look, I think he's saying what a lot of people already recognize, which is, in terms of the midterms, that's going to be largely a referendum off of Trump. But we have a long path forward. You know, Democrats do have a poor approval rating. We have brand problems that need to be fixed. Those aren't just going to fix themselves in a vacuum. I hope that people don't see success in the midterms as some indication that, you know, we've solved everything, because we haven't. But, you know, he talked about that a little bit, and I'm not sure if you're going to show a subsequent clip where he does discuss a little bit of the infighting, but you know, I think that's going to be it. He has a very particular focus on coalition building as opposed to purity politics, and I think, you know, in an era where everybody has a voice, everybody has a platform online, making sure that we can still remember that the goal of politics is actually to build a coalition, to cobble together a big enough coalition to win, to be able to do something, is first and foremost.
Well, let's turn to that, because he discussed it with you at length. He referenced things that people are familiar with, the kind of mood of certain people being a scold, trying to dictate to others what their political morality should be, or this term virtue signaling. And this, I thought, was an interesting exchange. So we cut it at some length. Let's take a look.
I think there was a certain way of talking about issues for Democrats where we sounded like scolds. There was a virtue signaling that made it seem as if ordinary folks, if they did not say things in exactly the right way or meet this litmus test, that they were being chastised, pushed away. And the truth is, most of us, all of us, are complicated, and we have blind spots, and sometimes we say dumb stuff, and if you want to create an environment that is welcoming and makes people feel, okay, there's room for me here, then the message and the story we tell has to be, all right, none of us are perfect, all of us count. We all have good in us that we can tap into. We can all learn from each other. And I think that is something we need to recover.
What did you see him hitting there?
I mean, similar to what I was saying before, I think that, at its core, again, politics is about getting enough votes to actually win. And this stuff really does, it's personal for a lot of people. They hold it really, they wear it on their shirt sleeve. And so it's not a surprise that when it comes to these political matters that people will take it personally and they will want to impose litmus tests and they'll, do what they do online these days. But I think it's important to get these reminders from somebody who, doesn't have any skin in the game, but he has a lot of cachet. And so he has the freedom to be able to come out and say this kind of stuff to reroute the party, I think, into a smarter direction as we head toward 2028, even if it's just planting a little bug in our heads to say, like, we are, I'm sure you've heard people say politics is a bus. You're not necessarily going right to your front door. You are taking the bus to the closest destination to where you live, and that's how we have to think of it. We can't let perfect be the enemy of good, and you're going to have people within the coalition who disagree with each other, but it's going to be important to make sure to remember that it is a coalition at the end of the day.
It's interesting coming from him as well because he's won these campaigns, doesn't have more to run. So even for people who are skeptical and don't like the message, it's different than some other old school Democrat saying, hey, I don't like this. He's speaking about it from the kind of good faith position within his party of how to win. You guys also touched on the Mamdani energy. Take a look.
What happened in our campaign and what you recently saw in Mamdani's campaign in New York.
Yeah.
When there's that sense of joy and engagement and involvement, then people feel like, all right, this is not just some transactional grind. This is me becoming part of a community.
Isn't it funny? Because I don't know about you, but like we use this word culture in different ways, but there is a culture of politics, and the idea that what was once the liberal street protests, counterculture energy, say, of the 70s, lost sight of that. How did liberals, even sometimes young liberals, get perhaps unfairly caricatured as no fun or hall monitors? And then Mamdani came along and reminded everyone, or you could be like this.
And look, between Mamdani now in 2026 and Obama in 2008, those are parallel campaigns. Those are people whose campaigns actually did inspire hope, as opposed to feeling like, I mean, as opposed to feeling like it's the lesser of two evils or whatever it may be, but politics needs to be hopeful. I mean, you are building a culture. I mean, to your exact point, you're building a culture and a community, and people don't want to join a community that is overwhelmingly negative, especially on this side. And so we have like winning formulas right in front of us.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times we need to be hit over the head with this idea that if you can have a hopeful, inclusive campaign, a la Barack Obama in 2008 or Zoran Mamdani in 2026, that the formula is there. We just need people who are willing to like pick up that mantle and not, fall into the DC trap of protecting institutions and processes and norms that those institutions are not the end. They are a means to an end, but the end has to be people.
Yeah.
It has to be people focused. And that's what Barack Obama's campaign was, 20 years ago almost. And it's what Zoran Mamdani's campaign was just this past year.
And real quick, here were some of the quick light moments you guys had.
Wasn't political. Bad Bunny's halftime show. It was demonstrating and displaying. This is what a community is.
Are aliens real?
They're real, but I haven't seen them.
Is Tupac alive?
He's alive on my playlist. If you're going to pull off a prank, it's got to be on somebody who can prank you back, and wasn't nobody going to prank me.
Did you find him to be the same old fun Obama, or now he's in his elder statesman role?
No, look, this dude knows how to hang, and I think that is such an understated value. Like, if you can get a guy who can just, without cursing, who can just like hang on a podcast, who can go the next day to the NBA All-Star game and throw down about sports, and who can talk politics better than anybody else. I think like that there is so much power in something like that, because look, we're in the TikTok era. There is so much focus on authenticity and relatability, and this dude is the ultimate. Like, he is the ultimate guy, and he can do everything. He doesn't just fit neatly into like one bucket where the only thing you can talk about is politics, and there's a lot of virtue in that, and that's why Barack Obama is Barack Obama, and it's so difficult for other people to replicate that.